Pro and contra the death penalty. Against the death penalty, government should not have the right to kill citizens as a form of punishment. Many of the people who live deserve to die, but many of the deceased deserve life. Once someone is dead, you cannot bring them back. Be careful before rushing to condemn someone to death. The U.S. justice system is flawed. There are so many flaws in the current justice system that it is unreliable for making such life or death decisions, which require absolute precision and control. We need to be sure that the death penalty is only applied where it is absolutely necessary and appropriate. Therefore, the death penalty should be abolished until the system can be significantly improved, which I don't believe is possible due to deeply rooted problems. Cost of the death penalty. I read that the cost of keeping prisoners incarcerated is cheaper than executing them, especially when considering the time spent in court and on verdicts. According to one study from 2016, the cost of maintaining death row inmates is, on average, $1.12 million more expensive than maintaining general prisoners. Another study from the University of Loyola states that, according to the Florida government, the real cost of each execution is about $3.2 million, which is 6 times more than life imprisonment. Moral issues. I don't think the government should be in the business of executing its people. The government should focus on improving people's lives and making the system just for those under its care. In my opinion, the death penalty is a barbaric practice that should remain in the past. Also, execution doesn't contribute to a decrease in crime rates, and there have been numerous cases of executions being botched, causing the condemned person to suffer before death. There are many instances where the execution process goes wrong, and a person suffers before dying. Innocent people may be executed. Even with a small margin of error, some innocent people may be executed. We also need to account for the possibility of corruption, bias, and incompetence in the government. The death penalty is irreversible, and that is a major risk. There have been cases where people were later found to be innocent after being convicted. The state should not exact revenge. I understand the desire for family members of victims to take revenge, but I do not believe the government should be in the business of executing people for revenge. Racial and economic inequality. There is also racial and material inequality in the application of the death penalty. Wealthy people are rarely executed, which is inherently unfair. People convicted of crimes punishable by death in different states receive different punishments depending on where the crime was committed. In favor of the death penalty, there are extreme cases where it may be justified. I am in favor of the death penalty, but only when it is applied to real monsters who have been caught in the act of a crime. When there is no hope of rehabilitation, even if the person suffers from a mental illness, there comes a point where it becomes more dangerous and costly for society to keep such a person alive and free. Example of serial killers. Serial killers like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer are prime examples of individuals who, after committing numerous brutal murders, were never going to be rehabilitated. They didn't deserve to live. Their crimes were so horrific that society is better off without them. Psychopaths cannot be allowed to live among us. For some people, the only appropriate punishment is death. If they are so dangerous that they pose a threat to society, then they do not deserve to live. In extreme cases, when it is clear that the individual is beyond rehabilitation, executing them might be the best option. A deterrent for others. I think that showing the consequences of committing such horrific crimes can deter others from doing the same. Sometimes society needs examples of the ultimate consequence to make people think twice before committing a crime. The death penalty could serve as such an example. Other considerations. The morality of the death penalty. There are extreme cases where the only justifiable punishment is death, especially for individuals who have committed horrific crimes, like serial murders. I think the world would be better off if such people were immediately executed on the spot without delay or mess. Society should not waste resources keeping people who contribute nothing to human development. Death is sometimes better than life imprisonment. Life imprisonment in a tiny cell surrounded by predators might be worse than death. The worst criminals should be kept away from society, and the death penalty might serve as a way to ensure that these dangerous individuals do not re-enter society. Death penalty as a deterrent. Sometimes, crimes are committed by people who know exactly what they are doing, but still decide to commit murder, theft, or drug trafficking. Once they cross that line, there's no turning back. And the state cannot afford to just keep psychopaths locked up for life. Opposition to the death penalty. False accusations and miscarriages of justice. Even if someone is accused of a crime and later proven innocent, the damage has already been done. False accusations can ruin a person's life, and even after being exonerated, their reputation may never fully recover. Lack of fairness in the justice system. The justice system isn't perfect, and sometimes it fails. I don't want a government that has the power to execute people because of the potential for wrongful convictions. The cost of the death penalty is higher than life imprisonment. As mentioned earlier, the death penalty is much more expensive than life imprisonment. For example, in California, each execution costs taxpayers around $300 million, which is much higher than keeping someone in prison for life. The death penalty doesn't prevent crime. Research shows that the death penalty does not effectively reduce crime rates. In fact, many countries that have abolished the death penalty have seen no significant increase in crime rates. The risks of irreversible error. I understand the desire for punishment, but the risk of executing an innocent person is too great. A mistake is irreversible, and the death penalty is too final a punishment. Conclusion. The debate around the death penalty is complex, and both sides have strong arguments. Ultimately, the question is whether we can truly trust our justice system to make life and death decisions, especially given the possibility of error, bias, and corruption. Some extreme cases may warrant the death penalty, but there are many moral, legal, and practical issues that make its application deeply problematic.